If you are an AKC Scent Work and you're thinking about doing NACSW, I want to share a story of my NW1 experience to help maybe give you some insight so you can prep for your trial coming up. I have a master level dog. We have our master elite title. We have our detective title. We are currently going for 20 detectives. We're at 14. So I thought that the NACSW NW1 was going to be pretty easy. I thought it was just going to be a slam dunk. So it wasn't. We got our interior, exterior, and vehicle, but we did not get containers, which even during the ORT that I did about a year before that, I noticed some funkiness with how he was picking out the containers. So I'm going to break down what I saw at that trial and what I self-diagnosed as my issues, so maybe you could prep better for him and how I'd prep differently. So I went in with a little bit of an ego because I just thought this won't be that hard. So the first thing is, I guess my assumption was that it was probably going to be similar to a novice AKC experience insofar as your interior, exterior, and containers, and I figured it'd be kind of a UKC vehicles similar situation, and it kind of wasn't. I feel like the interior and exterior was more in line, even though there was only one hide with a novice, with an AKC Advanced search in terms of kind of how big the search area was. I find that in AKC Novice and Advanced, usually one of the hides is pretty much hitting your dog right at the threshold, the start line. That wasn't the case in my experience. It actually took us a little longer than I ever would have expected to find one hide in the room. But it wasn't hard once we got there, but we did have to cover the room a little bit. And the exterior was kind of the same thing. It was a little bit bigger of a search area than I thought, and the plume was kind of off to the edge, if I remember correctly, of the boundary. So yeah, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily see that in novice or advanced in AKC. So that was a couple of things. If you have experience at higher levels, I don't think those are going to give you that much trouble. If you're still kind of at lower levels of AKC, that's what to expect. The vehicles I thought was going to be similar to UKC, but it wasn't insofar as I can't remember how many vehicles they had, but in UKC, the hide is on the front in the very lowest level of UKC vehicles. The next level, you search the whole vehicle, and that was the case with NACSW as well. You would search the whole vehicle. Other than that, pretty straightforward. Containers, that was, again, where we got. And first of all, there was a lot more boxes than what I would expect at a novice containers in AKC. I guess I need to check the rules to see how many containers there are, but in AKC, I think there's 6, 8, something like that. This was closer to advanced or maybe even excellent. I'm not sure. Double check that for yourself. But all I do remember is like, wow, there's more containers than I expected. And I'm going to say up front, 35 entrants, I think only 6 passed containers at that trial. There was something funky going on. And this was another one of my assumptions. Again, novice is pretty straightforward in AKC, and I guess I assumed that that's what was going to go on here. But I think there was some interesting odor stuff going on, maybe some pooling, maybe some collecting on one of the containers. I think we probably alerted on a container before the actual hot container. And this is what I would do differently there. First of all, we didn't practice a lot of containers going in. And I do know that my dog, if we don't practice containers, he kind of forgets the odor pictures a little bit. So that was my fault. And the other thing that was my fault was NACSW odor concentration is less. So I had a couple of my mentors tell me, you need to practice at that less odor concentration when you're practicing in containers. And also grab the same kind of boxes that they use for ORTs, which I don't know that I have that same box. So that's what I would change different. I would have done probably only 3 or 4 sessions where I set up some more complicated puzzles. Now, I will say, had we been on the top of our containers game, I think that we probably would have gotten it, but we just weren't at this point. We were a little out of shape, so we alerted on the wrong thing. And that's even what happened in the ORT. I had to be really patient while my dog figured out what was going on. He almost gave me an alert in a couple of the ORTs, and even in this NW1 that looked like his alert, but not quite. So I've learned to just be patient, because a lot of times that's just him trying to think through stuff. And he gave me that in the NW1 and the ORTs, where it looked like it was going to be an alert. And he did that a couple of times to me, so maybe I didn't give him enough time on that last box to work it out, and I was getting anxious. Maybe he was getting anxious. The reward clock was kicking in. I don't know. So that was my NW1 experience. I hope that was helpful.